Hey everybody, today we're talking about whether or not I think you should go to film school. It's the age-old question. But first, what is this? It's my cap and gown. It's also August 2nd. This is the first and last time you will ever hear me say the word COVID. I think I'm going to tackle this as an informative discussion rather than a should you go or should you not go, because there's pros and cons to each, and really it's every person's choice what they want to do. I think everybody knows that, but I'm going to speak about my personal experience. So I went to a 2-year community college in South Portland, Maine. It is an awesome school. Everything about it is great. I wish it was a 4-year university. I felt very welcome at this school, and I felt like I was achieving something for me personally that maybe other people don't need to achieve. But for me, it was a very personal connection that helped me get through this experience and enjoy it a lot. So I was in a communications and new media program at the school, and I chose to go down basically a video path. You could choose graphic design, animation. It was a very malleable sort of degree. So I decided I am really interested in video and I want to check this out. Probably the best part about going to this school was that all of the professors were either currently working in the field that they were teaching or were veterans of the field. Every single one of them. So you weren't just hearing something that somebody learned in school or out of a textbook, they have hands-on experience. With that comes the connection of knowing that person and the people that they know. Therefore, you can get jobs. Whether or not they're paid or not, you're getting the connection and you're meeting people in the community. For me, I'm not trying to be like a National Geographic photographer or a Hollywood filmmaker, so I want to make local connections where I can get a job and make money. While I was still in school, having zero experience in video when I started, I had at least 2 paying jobs while I was in school because of my teacher. One of the things that I do hear mentioned a lot on YouTube is that it's really important that you have a mentor when you're learning photography or video, and I could not agree more. I have actually not really taken any courses on YouTube, so I can't really speak to that, but I can say that having a mentor and a teacher and other professors that worked in the program was the number one thing that kept me going, answered my questions instantly. Because when you're taking a course online and you can't get an instant answer or something that's very specific, it's incredibly frustrating and it can slow you down and impact your work greatly. Something that is spoken about a lot in these types of videos is gear. This is absolutely undeniable. There's a monumental amount of gear available to you when you go to film school, everything that you can really possibly think of. And not only are you getting to use that gear to create your portfolio, but more importantly, you're getting experience with the gear. So when you get on a set, you don't look like an idiot because you don't know what something is or how to use it. When you're in film school, there's ample time to mess around with the gear and ask a million questions without having to feel like an idiot, because everybody's a beginner, or at least somewhere along that line. So that is very valuable. A lot of people on YouTube talk about it's not about the gear that you have, it's about the skills that you have. Clearly that's true. One thing that's great about film school is that you can get the chance to use the gear and find out what works for you and what doesn't, or what's necessary and what isn't. At my school, a lot of the gear was like incredibly expensive, top brand name stuff. So things that people on YouTube that are starting out would never have, which is great, except that now I don't have that gear since I've graduated. But you get to see what it's like to use good gear so that you know what you need and what you don't really need. One thing that I struggle with, that I know a lot of people struggle with on YouTube, is being consistent. So They say you can't grow on YouTube if you don't have consistency. It is so much work making a video every week. Ask any single person. It is really difficult, especially if you're doing it by yourself. When you're in film school, you have deadlines that you have to meet if you want to pass the class. You can't move on to other things until the deadlines are met. And that's what it's going to be like in the real world if you're not on YouTube, if you're working on set or you're doing commercial work. There's heavy deadlines that you have to meet. Being in school helps you get ready for that and understand how you need to work to be able to meet those deadlines and how much work you can take on in one day or 1 hour or 1 week for yourself that you can actually accomplish before you get out into the professional world where you need to tell people how long it's going to take you to do a project. I would say that the biggest difference, well, I guess one of the huge differences between the YouTube education and doing film school is that you need critique on your work. And I think we all know that the critiques coming from most of the people on the internet are not something that you need to hear. You have no idea who's behind a comment or anything on the internet. No clue. You don't know if they know anything. So it's hard to listen to critique from others. There's also a lot of good people in some of the groups I'm in that give great advice. And it's all free for the most part, right? But you need that critique from your peers, the people that are on your level, that are learning, that can see these mistakes, and you need it from your professor. And I can tell you right now that somebody on YouTube who's getting money from you for you to learn in their course is not going to tell you if you suck. They actually probably don't care if you suck because they're making money off of you. At school, the teacher's not making money off you. Maybe in a roundabout way through tuition, but if you're not there, somebody else is going to be sitting in your seat. So it doesn't really matter. They're not there to try to take your money. They're there to make you a better filmmaker. I know that it probably seems like I'm like, go to film school, go to film school, go to film school. That was my route. And again, I only got a 2-year degree. It was very valuable to me. I can definitely say that from about 2008 to 2018, I was self-taught in photography, 100% self-taught, and I shot a lot of stuff and I made some money. But in the 2 years that I went to film school, where I actually only took one photography class, I learned a hell of a lot more in 2 years that made me a million times better as a photographer than I ever was in the 10 years teaching myself. Just putting that out there. But let's talk about what's great about YouTube. It's free, right? And it's instant. If you have an idea, if you have a question, you can type it in. It's pretty much going to be on YouTube. It is very difficult to come up with content that doesn't exist. On the other side of that people don't really seem to mention, and I don't think they think about, people do say, well, you have to search YouTube up and down and sideways to learn what you would learn in my course. It's the same thing with film school, right? There's a curriculum in place, and I feel like people don't really talk about that. So you think, oh, I can just look it up on YouTube, but you have to know what you're looking up. Because when you go to school and you learn something, you don't even know what you're going to learn. So they tell you what you're going to learn, and then they teach it to you. If you're on YouTube and you want to learn filmmaking, what do you type in? What's the first thing that you do? There's so many different pieces that go to it. So without having a document in front of you that says you need to look up A, B, C, and D, and this huge long list of things in an order, which I really don't think exists, then how are you going to know what you're teaching yourself? And furthermore, how do you know who you can trust, right? It's really difficult. Although I had an excellent experience at this school, I can definitely tell you a few things that will make you wish you didn't go to film school. For instance, the other students. I know what you're thinking. I made a lot of friends and I learned a lot from some of the kids there. I mean a lot, just from their own creative brains. And I made some great connections and good friends. However, there are some lazy ass kids. Granted, I'm 35 years old and I went to school with people that were like 18. Some of them were in their 20s, but for the most part, they're kids. And some of these people were incredibly lazy. I'm sure some of these people are watching and you know who you are if you're my friend, so don't give me shit. Anyway, it's hard when you're on a team and people just, they're not interested. It's not even about people who don't want to pull their weight, because I don't pay attention to that. I just do my thing and I go my way. But people who just don't want to be part of it, why would you sign up for something that you don't want to be part of? Doesn't make sense to me. So that can be really tough, especially if you're on a team and you're expecting people to deliver certain parts. And even if they do deliver it, it's done really crappy or really lazy. That's very frustrating. Something that matters to a lot of people about film school is that they get chosen at the end of their film school career to be the director of a film. This is common in many school programs, and it was the same in mine. A few people were chosen out of the group after they had developed a script and pitched it to a panel to be chosen to make a film. I was lucky enough to be one of those people chosen because I worked very hard for that. Not everybody gets chosen. Some people are okay with that, but some people, they want to be the director. And if they're not, and if they get their degree and they're not specializing in being a director, some people are really disappointed with that. So if you go the YouTube route, you can be whatever you want. You can be the sound guy, you can be the director, you can be the cameraman, you can be all of those things if you want to. It's gonna be really hard, but you get to make that choice on your own. Battery died. Okay, so there's some really obvious factors, right? There's the fact that it costs money. You have to pay to go to film school, and like I mentioned, YouTube is free. Where I went to school, it was so inexpensive you could basically pay for it out of your pocket, especially for the education you were getting. Is absolutely mind-blowing. I probably would have paid twice the money. I probably would have paid the school twice the money for the same education. No, but seriously, you have to think about that, right? That's pretty obvious. Going to school takes up a shitload of time. It was so stressful for me. It was incredible. I cannot believe the amount of work that I was expected to do, that I had to accomplish. You should also know that I was like a straight A student. If I didn't get straight A's, I was incredibly upset. So I put a lot of effort into it, and that's what it's about, right? Anything in life, it's what you put in. I put in a lot. Going off that topic, I just want to say, you are going to need an immense amount of caffeine. Just know that. Here's another thing to think about that I'm not sure that people really mention. I work best when I have some sort of idea given to me or some sort of parameters. I need someone to feed me something. Like, I need you to make a how-to, and it needs to be 5 to 6 minutes, and it has to include these 3 things. It's a challenge because then it puts you in a box that you need to work in. But for me, having those prompts, especially in photography, it was so helpful. I couldn't believe the stuff that I came out with that I never could have imagined in my head alone without having somebody push me in that direction. So, I mean, that probably does exist to some extent in some course online, but for me, like I said, especially in photography, I took a street photography class, and there was always a very specific prompt, and you had to deliver like 3 to 5 images in a week span that were good, right? I mean, they're going up the size of the wall in front of the class. This time the SD card was full. I really need to work on that. Anywho, yes, so in my photography class, the images, they're being projected on the wall, the size of the wall, and in front of all the classmates, so they can't be garbage. You have a week to come up with these ideas, and it's street photography, so there's no planning, there's no lighting, there's no models, right? At least not after the first couple weeks. And at first I found this incredibly difficult. You have to find the time, and then you have to hope something's happening, right? And you have to take pictures of strangers. But this challenge was amazing for me. We're just gonna have every single thing that's gonna stop us right now. It's fine. There's probably 25 more minutes of things that I could say about this, but lastly, I'm just going to touch on the fact that I think it's worth saying that YouTube, which is free, is not exactly the same as like a film school online, or should I say a film course, like a Fulltime Filmmaker that everybody knows about by Parker Walbeck. I seriously consider this while I was in school. I did not purchase it while I was in school because I was like, how do I think I'm having time to watch this? I think that I haven't purchased it, so I don't know, but I think there's probably a lot in there that is valuable information that I don't necessarily think I would consider to be YouTube. Obviously, it's cheaper and you don't have the gear, so those are still points to be made. But I would be interested someday in checking out Parker's course. I think I'm getting to the point now where a lot of it is probably stuff that I don't need. However, I still think it would be really interesting. And for me, it's worth it if I can learn a couple things. Maybe not for $800, but That's what I have to say about that. Also, I do just want to say that I absolutely love YouTube. I live on YouTube and I watch it every single day. I don't really do much with the Facebook or the TikTok, but I come home from work, I take a shower, and I am on YouTube. And I am hoping and praying that all of my filmmakers and photographers have made a video today, because it just absolutely lights up my world. So, lover of film school, lover of YouTube, telling you that make a choice, I guess. Thanks. Have a good one.